The Chicago Cubs crawl slightly back into the NL Central Division race, but more problems are on the horizon. We'll give you the details coming up. The Southside Hitmen, i.e., the Chicago White Sox, left their pitching in Atlanta. What happened? And we'll preview tonight's Bears Chiefs game from Kansas City. And we'll have sports media news and a whole lot more. And that as the Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, on the IG, and let me try that again. 3, 2, 1. This is live. You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG as SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Sorry, folks, for the Friday jitters.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, Execution's getting an IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WAR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WAR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to build and be boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE Live Entertainment Game that's checking us out right now on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages at 12:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. But yours truly always never forget to show much love to the replay game that's also checking us out now on the replay, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto, whether we talk about sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We invite you with some of the best around Second City Sports as the Bears are in Kansas City to gear up for their last preseason game against the Chiefs tonight. We'll talk about that. A couple of big trades happened in the NFL. The one that actually just went down just about an hour ago. We'll talk about that. Also, sports media news as ESPN Chicago shakes up their daytime lineup. And some other happenings as well as sports media news. Also got the tour championship down there in Atlanta. You got college football getting ready to start with a few games this weekend. So we'll talk about that and so much more. But of course, first baseball. We gear up here to talk. The Cubs won 3 out of 5. It would have been nice if they won 4. They should have won that game last night. Despite a good outing from Shota. Kyle Tucker, we find out, had a fractured finger. That's why he was struggling. He got back in the lineup. To some cheers, a little bit of jeers. Unfortunately, he really wasn't, didn't contribute too much. So he probably could have set out that last game, and perhaps maybe the Cubs could have won that game. But I digress. So now they're over in Los Angeles, not playing the Dodgers, but they're playing right across the way, playing the Angels in Anaheim starting tonight. And it's going to be a little bit interesting here. Now, 5 games, you thought that, okay, that would have been more doable. 7 games isn't impossible to come back from if you're the Cubs in that division, but 5 would have been a little bit more doable. They supposedly have the easiest schedule, if you will, to finish up the season. While the Brewers have one of the hardest schedules, they still got to talk about the Brewers. They still got to play Toronto. They still got to play the Yankees, and they actually play the Dodgers this weekend, and I'm sure the Dodgers would love to get a little bit of get back. And also they play Seattle as well, so they got a tough schedule coming up. We're talking about the Brewers, but the Cubs, they should have taken care of business. Like 3 out of 5 was fine, but 4 out of 5 would have been better. I feel like.
Here's the positive part, LaKeena. I predicted on this show our last show on Monday that they would take 2 out of 3 because the way they were playing, I didn't see the offense being consistent enough to hold off the Brewers, but they kind of proved me wrong. Owen Casey, the rookie, who many think they will replace Kyle Tucker next year. If Kyle Tucker decides not to resign, we'll get to Kyle Tucker in a second. But Owen Casey came up with a huge home run in that series. Dansby Swanson actually swung the ball very well. Nico Horner, he tried. He had a couple of big hits here and there. The home run was used a little bit, but the Cubs were aggressive. As far as aggressive enough to hold off the Brewers in those three wins in that series. So I was proud of them for that, and they actually did get some good pitching in that series, minus the game on Monday where they got shellacked 7-0. But here's the bad part. I'll get to the on the field stuff now. Shota Imanaga, it wasn't his greatest performance, but he kept the Cubs in that game. The bullpen. We talked about them all year long, LaKeena. I know they went through a tough stretch in the first 2 months of the season. Craig Counsell's trying to find some guys to get him his 6 to 9 outs. Now that you have a closer in Daniel Palencia, I know you got some other veteran role players to fill up that spot in the bullpen. Caleb Theobar has been a godsend as far as left-handers in that bullpen all year, but that bullpen failed the Cubs, in my opinion, in this series. Giving up key walks, giving up key hits, and number 3, they booted the ball a couple of times. And to win playoff series, as I said 1,000 times, I'll say it again. You got to throw the ball, which is pitching, which their start pitching has been good enough lately. Hit the ball, which they did in those 3 victories. Catch the ball. Those 2 losses that they had in the front end and the back end of the series yesterday, they booted a ball around so much, and the bullpen just gave it up. That's a recipe for disaster.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you guys are talking about the Cubs here. Now, the Cubs in yesterday's game, they left 11 guys on base. They had opportunities to score multiple runs. They had the bases loaded with no out. And unfortunately, they only get 1 across. I think they had a game where they had like a second and third and nobody out, or first and second or something like that with nobody out, and they couldn't score there. So that's another reason why the Cubs have kind of been inconsistent lately when it comes to the hitting and such. So for me, I think that was a totally waste opportunity last night. Now, Kyle Tucker, he was over yesterday. So again, I don't know why he did have a walk, but I don't know why he was even out there, because especially when you find out that going all the way to back to June, he had a fractured finger, and unfortunately, that's why he's been very productive lately. But the thing is that okay, well, you should have just let him sit the whole series. I mean, the formula that you did for that third and fourth game, that actually was working. You had Casey, his first home run. First home run of his career. You had other guys stepping up. You had the hitting and such. Michael Busch hit a home run as well. In that second game, the double when they swept the Cubs swept the double header. So I don't understand why they didn't just let Tucker sell that hole. And then you probably could say, hey, look, we'll see you in Anaheim, and that's just going to be, just kind of like insane how all that kind of shape up. But this is one of the times when the analytics and such, sometimes you're overthinking it. You just got to just go with the hot hand. And unfortunately, Kyle Tucker has not been hot. So sometimes you gotta just let your regular actual baseball get you to you, in different spurts and everything else.
I can see both sides of this argument. I'll go to the player side first. Cal Tucker, I know this is kind of like an old school attitude, but if you don't have any arms or legs or elbows broken, physically broken, you should be out there playing. From that aspect of it, showing his teammates leadership, I can understand. As long as you're healthy enough to play, you should be playing. There's a difference between being injured and actually being hurt. And most athletes who play athletics will tell you that. I get it from that standpoint. If Cal Tucker is still out there trying to show leadership to his teammates, then I understand that aspect of it. On the flip side, you mentioned about analytics and things of that nature. This comes on Cubs manager Craig Counsell. You knew that series coming up against Milwaukee was important. You were playing lesser opponents like Pittsburgh that you beat 2 out of 3 last weekend. You couldn't tell me that you couldn't sit Kyle Tucker for that whole series, or at least play in one game. You couldn't tell me that there wasn't other games you could have gave him a couple of days off to rest that finger to get him ready for this series. If you couldn't tell me that you couldn't do that, there's a bigger issue than the issue is much bigger than just Kyle Tucker struggling. Sometimes you got to protect players from themselves, and if that's the case here, I'm blaming that on Craig Counsell.
Now, speaking of the Angels, we'll get to that series in a minute here, as I know we're up against it. But looking at the Brewers schedule, they got a pretty tough one. They host the Giants starting tonight. They got to go at Toronto. They get Philadelphia at home. They play Texas. They play the Cardinals twice. No, they only play the Cardinals once. And they play San Diego as well. And they play Cincy to finish up the season. We'll see where Cincy is. Could they be fighting for a wild card spot by that point? So, yeah, the Brewers schedule, you got to think that you saw a little bit of, hole punches through whatever was happening. So I kind of wish the Cubs had won 4 out of 5. So that way they kind of would have put a little bit of a punctured wound in the Brewers, and that could have started falling off. But it is what it is with that. Now going into that series, starting tonight against the Angels, your pitching matchups coming up. Let's see. No starter has been named yet, but they will face Anderson for the Angels, Cade Horton for tomorrow, and Matthew Boyd will go on Sunday. The Angels have not announced their starters after the Anderson start tonight. So at this point, I know the Angels have kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. I know they got some young guys. Trout still is still playing very well. Has been able to avoid serious injury, which is good. But I think you can't. There's nothing more acceptable than you have to win 2 out of 3. You get, or at the very least, if not, you're not going to sweep them, because anything less than that, you can probably you got to at least get the win as much wins as you can.
Yeah, we talked about the Angels on this show a couple of times this year. They're one of the top teams in league leading in home runs. You have Joe Adell, Taylor Ward. You mentioned the Angels won Mike Trout. Of course, you still have Yohan Makata, the former White Sox player. He's still hanging around for some reason. He hit a home run the other day, so I guess he'll be on the team for the rest of the year. But they have boppers in their lineup. Their bullpen is actually not too bad. I know they have veteran closer Kelly Jansen, who's still getting it done. But I think you could attack their middle relief there if you get to their bullpen. So for the Cubs, I know their pitching staff is spent, especially after this 5-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. But I think it's going to be called upon their starting pitchers to go at least 5-6 innings. This was back 10, 20 years ago, you could ask them to go 7 to 8. But obviously the game, today's baseball, is not like that anymore. So like you mentioned, we don't know who's starting tonight for Chicago. As of right now, it's a bullpen game on paper. But Cade Horton and Matthew Boyd, you got to give me at least 6. If you could give me 7, great. And Matthew Boyd could definitely do that. He's done it in his last 2 or 3 starts. But youngster Cade Horton is trying to grow up a little bit. Save their bullpen and save them some energy. Go at least 6+ innings.
All right, we're going to take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk White Sox, where they didn't have a good showing in Atlanta. Well, I'll say a mixed bag. Well, not exactly a mixed bag, but yeah, they finished up 1-5 on the road. That tells you all you need to know there as they get ready to host the Twins starting tonight over at G-Rate. But yeah, that and a whole lot more. And things are getting a little bit dicey in one of the divisions. We'll have that and a whole lot more coming next. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Chi. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you live this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Funga edition. You're locked and loaded and real live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executes again at IG.
We'll continue the Cubs and Sox talking and get into the rest and worst of Major League Baseball from this past week. If you have any questions or comments on that subject for this half hour, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, the White Sox unfortunately didn't have a good showing down in Atlanta. Now, after a promising start on Monday with a 13-9 win, well, they lost an offensive battle 11-10 on Tuesday, and in the rubber match, unfortunately, the bats were silent as Waldrop's he struck out 7, and unfortunately, the Rays were able to get the rubber match of that series, and of course, the Sox finished 1-5 on the road, even though Perez had a nice showing on Wednesday. Excuse me, but. Yeah, I mean, the Sox are back home. They face the Twins, and yeah, it's just like, oh gosh, they're kind of going back to the old habits, and that's not good.
Yeah, this is ugly bad, LaKeena. We talked about this season being fun bad, which it has been in many parts, but this was ugly bad. And let me explain. Remember, LaKeena, what was I begging for this Sox team on this show on Monday? More offense. Mm-hmm. Well, damn it, 21 ones in the first 2 games. Your boy was happy. But last Wednesday, as you mentioned, losing 1-0. Here's the good news. Lenny Sosa's bat is still heating up, even though he has a big hole in his glove. I don't know if there's enough duct tape on planet Earth to fill that hole in his glove, but I digress. But he had a total of 5 RBI in this series. Cal Teal had 4 RBI in that game on Tuesday, which they lost. I like the way he's been playing right now. Luis Robert slowly starting to creep up. He had about 3 RBI in that series against Atlanta, so he's starting to heat up a little bit. I think Chris Getz should try to trade him this offseason, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Miguel Vargas is starting to creep up a little bit. We'll see how he does between now and the end of the season. The bad news, LaKeena, Shane Smith, Tuesday's game, the Sox gave him plenty of run support. Shane Smith had 4 strikeouts and 2 walks in 6 innings pitched on Tuesday. But the bad news was that damn bullpen was actually been decent until the last 2 weeks. They gave up a 6-run lead and lost. And of course, Wednesday, it was a wash. This pitching staff, both starters and the bullpen especially, is now spent, LaKeena. And as we talked about with the Cubs in our last segment, whoever's the starting pitchers for the White Sox this weekend against the Twins, we'll get to them later. They should give Will Venable at least 6 innings because their bullpen is not good right now. I think it's only about 2 or 3 guys maybe you could keep on that bullpen going into next year. Everybody else you just go. But their whole entire pitching staff, both the starters and the relievers for sure, are a hellspin. And then clearly outside of Martin Perez on Wednesday, they did not get the job done.
Yeah, they scored 7 runs in the Tuesday game. They came back from that 5-run deficit, I should say, and it ended up losing that game and ultimately the series. So, unfortunately, yeah, I mean, we're like ugly bad, I guess. Now, I guess we're back to that. I mean, it was kind of like that Tuesday's game was very weird. As Braves scored first, Sox came back. But then Profar hit that 2-run shot, and then Vargas had a nice showing. So it's like you talked about, he had a good showing in that whole series. Actually, the last couple of weeks, he's been pretty good. Teal hit that 2-run home run, but unfortunately, it was all Braves after that. So yeah, that was and the fact that they couldn't even score a run on Wednesday in that rubber match, I think that's another kind of testament to how the White Sox have been this year. Now, again, like I said, they've had their moments. I mean, look, the Monday. You wish you kind of had that same testament that you saw on Monday, but unfortunately, you scored 23 runs, you end up going 1-1. So unfortunately, your bullpen kind of killed you with that. So look, the White Sox, I mean, they are what they are. They're 45-82 as we're recording this, and they play the Twins starting tonight. And look, it's going to be kind of interesting if they could win a game or two in this series. You got Savale against Matthews. That'll be the first game tonight, and then you've got Davis Martin and no word on who's going to pitch for the Twins for that game tomorrow. But it'll be Gomez against Ryan for the rubber match of that series. So again, you're already well ahead of pace with you're already past last season's win total if you're the White Sox, but you want to at least try to. At least the goal is to try to get to 60. I think that's kind of the goal here. These last few games, this last 6 weeks of the season. You want to get that get to 60 so you can kind of build on something as you go into the off season.
Shout out to our guy Brandon Schutz in the chat. Hopefully you're doing well. We'll talk about your Astros coming up. They may be in some trouble here with Seattle in the AL West race. We'll get to that in just a second. But just to wrap up with the White Sox, with Minnesota's struggling here for the last couple of weeks, I think this is a chance to get them. I'm gonna put it out there. The White Sox should get these 2 games in this series. You mentioned about Davis Martin going on for Saturday tomorrow's game. Yours surely will be there. So, and Davis Martin has actually been pitching pretty well his last couple of starts. He only gave a 1 hit in his last start against Kansas City. Hopefully, you can get something similar to that tomorrow. And of course, Aaron Savali, I know he got rocked in his last start, but hopefully he can turn it around tonight. So the Sox should be able to take care of the Twins. I will put the pressure on them. They can get at least 2, but watch, they'll come out with 1. But as we said all year long, we'll say it again. The main objective for the White Sox is with these young guys, to give them some consistent playing time. See who stands tall by the end of the year, who's going to be on this team next year, or who's not going to be here next year. That's what the season's all about.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk about the rest of the MLB here. Now, staying in the AL Central, sorry, Brendan, but your Astros didn't have a good week. They got swept by the Tigers, including losing 1-0. Kind of a similar fashion there. Now, Taylor Trammell, I know he got hit. He got rocked a couple of days ago in that rubber match and such, but it looks like, to go back to the Tigers, it looks like they might be getting back in control in that division, when you thought that maybe could Cleveland, but yeah, Cleveland has been playing very well. The Royals have been up and down, but it looks like the Tigers have a chokehold on the AL Central.
Yeah, and we said this all year long. The Tigers' offense is coming around. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, some of the other guys that Zach McKinstry hitting the ball. But their starting pitching, in particular, Tariq Skubal, is starting to come around as well. I know he went through a rough patch in his previous 3 starts, but it looks like he's starting to come around. And the Tigers are looking like the dominant team that they were the first 2.5 months of the year. Going to the Astros, I know that Christian Walker has had a disappointing year, that free agent pickup from Arizona. I know he had a couple of RBIs in that series against the Tigers, but Houston struggling right now offensively in their pitching. Their starting pitching has been through injury played all year long. We don't have to go through it, but if they can get any consistent starting pitching outside of Hunter Brown, I think this team will be okay. But as we said before, this is not the same team that won the World Series a couple years ago when Dusty Baker was at the helm. So this team just got to get healthy, especially starting pitching wise, and be more consistent offensively. I think they'll be okay. But your Seattle Mariners are knocking at the door, so there's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be a photo finish until the final day of the year
Now,
for the AL West title.
Now, Houston did win the opener series against the Orioles, so that might help them turn the corner a little bit. Now, the Mariners, I mean, they've lost 5 in a row. They got swept by the Phillies, so unfortunately, you would think that maybe they would be up there, but they had a tough stretch, facing the Mets, losing that series early this last weekend, and then, of course, they get swept by the Phillies this week. Hopefully, they can kind of get it going. They play Oakland. The A's starting tonight. So,
the Oakland A's in Sacramento on this show.
Yeah, the Bay Area A's. So, or Sacramento A's or whatever. But yeah, hopefully that'll get them to kind of get a keep pace with them. But yeah, they do face each other a couple of times. We'll talk about Seattle and Houston. So hopefully, maybe we'll get there, and that they'll know a series that's coming up. I know they think they play each other, I think, in about a few weeks. I think like in September around this time. So that could be for the division. So we'll see how this kind of shakes out there. Now going to the AL East, Toronto, Toronto, they didn't have a best showing. They lost 2 out of 3 to Pittsburgh. I don't think you hope that doesn't come back to bite them, like I said. So that's another thing that the series there. But yeah, the Yankees have been playing pretty well lately. I know they lost. I know they lost the opener yesterday, that series against Boston, but they did get that 2-gamer against the Rays, and they've won 5 in a row prior to that loss to the Red Sox. So, but yeah, I think they might be starting to turn the corner a little bit.
As I said on the show on Monday, if Aaron Judge is healthy and Giancarlo Stanton are healthy, or both of them are healthy at the same time, that Yankees team could be dangerous. And you saw what happened, as you mentioned, that Tampa series. I believe it was Tuesday's game, where the second time this year that the Yankees had 9 home runs total in that game. Giancarlo Stanton had 2. Aaron Judge had 1. Ben Rice is really coming on strong. Like he has 20-plus home runs on the year. Trent Grisham, their starting center fielder, I know he had another home run last night in that series opener against Boston, but he's starting to play well, not only defensively but offensively as well. Hopefully you get Anthony Volpe going both with his bat and his glove. But when the Yankees are hitting like they did in that Tampa series, they can't be dangerous. They just got to be more consistent, and they still got to get some issues straightened out with their starting pitching.
Yeah, that was really kind of what killed them yesterday in that opener against the Red Sox. Now the Red Sox, they've struggled lately too, of course, up until that getting that swept in that 2-gamer by the Orioles. So I'm still not sold on Boston, but we'll see what they do here in this series. Like I said, they won the opener, so we'll see what happens there. Now Philadelphia going to the NL. Philadelphia, like we said earlier, they swept the Mariners. So, taking care of that. Now, they do get back against the Nationals. They did win 2 out of 3 in that series before that. So, it looks like they're starting to get it going. I know Zach Wheeler, I know he's going to be probably out for the season because it's scary that they found a blood clot in his throwing shoulder and he's going to be gone for a bit. But it looks like, the good thing about it is that they do have 5 pitchers, so they got the pitching to kind of help them in the back end. So, hopefully, it won't be an issue, Wheeler being gone down the line, but we'll see.
Yeah, Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez, both those young guys going to have to step up for that Philadelphia starting rotation. I know Aaron Nola just got back. I know his last start, he got wrapped up. He's going to have to turn it around while he finds his footing. So that pitch is still going to be key for Philadelphia. And with the Mets struggling, hopefully they can put some more distance between themselves and the Metropolitans. Right now, Philadelphia's offense is carrying that team right now with Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and others. But it's going to come a time just like this time last year, LaKeena, around playoff time. Philadelphia's offense went cold, and they ran into a hot Mets team, and out they went in the division series. So for Philadelphia, I know the office is carrying them right now, but their young pitching staff is going to have to step up here and just trying to find that balance because right now they are the best team in the NL East, and I think they're going to win that division. But you just got to find that right balance and play. You got to play very well going into the playoffs.
Now, as far as the Mets are concerned, they lose 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, and unfortunately, I know I've listened to New York sports radio, and they're not very happy right now. What's going on? I know Nimbo. I think he's in the INL with a neck injury, so we'll see. Their injuries are kind of taking a toll on them, and I think that's part of the problem.
And also, too, the lack of clutch hitting as well. I know you still have Pete Alonso. You still have Juan Soto, who hit a home run in that series against one of his former teams. But Jeff McNeil and Francisco Lindor looks like he's going back into a funk again. And they're starting pitching, and it got rocked in that series against the Nationals. So hopefully their starting pitching can turn around. Mostly their bullpen, they better turn around. So I'm looking for that bullpen and Francisco Lindor to make a big turnaround. Right now, as you mentioned, they're barely 7 games above 500. They got to put together a nice long stretch here, or else you can say goodbye to a playoff spot this year, because what they did last year was incredible, but they're going to need some time of run like that again this year. And if they can't get it here quickly before the month of August is out, you could kiss the playoffs goodbye.
Now going to the NL West, as Freddie Freeman hit a 2-1 home run in that rubber match. If you're a Dodgers fan, you're very disappointed because you should have won. At the very least, you should have won 3 out of 4 against Colorado. You ended up splitting that series. So it kind of sort of was moot, I guess. I think you might have got caught with your pants down after sweeping the Padres. We'll get to them in a second, but yeah, that kind of came back to bite you. And you hope that this series doesn't come back to bite you too if you're the Dodgers, especially in the NL West.
And you hope Shohei Ohtani's right knee is okay. I know he took one off the side of his right leg, and it started on Wednesday, which he lost. He's now 0-1 as a starting pitcher on the year. If that would have hit his kneecap directly, it would have been more problems. But looks like as far as we know, he's okay. But like you said, LaKeena, these are the dog days of summer. The Dodgers, you mentioned they should have taken 3 out of 4 in Colorado, but they've been dealing with injuries too. But like you said, at this time of year, no one's going to feel sorry for you. I think they still have a better talent than the Padres. They're going to end up winning this division. But as we said all year, LaKeena, get as healthy as possible to potentially make a long run, a potential long run in the playoffs. But they have these injuries lingering on into the playoffs. It's going to be a quick out for them. So we'll see how healthy can the Dodgers be between now and the start of the playoffs.
All right, now speaking of San Diego, they did win 3 out of 4 against the Giants, so that's why they're still like 1 back. Now, can we get this consistently from the Padres? I think that's a different conversation. I know Machado had 3 RBIs in that rubber match, to take the series, but I don't know what to think about this Padres squad. I mean, you thought that maybe they're starting to get going, but they get swept by the Dodgers, and then you win 3 out of 4 against the Giants after sweeping them before that Dodger series. But yeah, you're not going to be playing the Giants anymore. I think they only play them like once the rest of the season. So you got to do this a little more consistently, and then maybe I'll buy it.
Dylan Cease got tattooed a little bit yesterday, but the offense held up enough of the forefront to qualify for the win, especially after his previous start against the Dodgers where he got rocked last Saturday. I was watching MLB Network before yesterday's league. I couldn't believe this, but like I said, this is before yesterday's game. You mentioned with all those names in that lineup. Guess who has the second least of home runs in all of baseball?
Who among all teams?
2,
What, the Padres?
1. Can you guess? Without
what,
Google.
What, the Padres?
Yeah, all teams. Yes, you're correct. The same 10 home runs on the year. And that's not good. Second fewest in all of baseball. So
yeah,
as you mentioned, they got to get the power going. They have the bullpen to stand up against the elite, but the offense lacks power, and we'll see how that holds up. I know that's a pitcher's ballpark at Petco Park, but like you said, they got to be more aggressive, especially against better teams coming up on their schedule. So I know that mathematically they're keeping up with the Dodgers, but It's just that, like you said, they just haven't been consistent enough to overtake the Dodgers this year, and I don't know if that's going to happen. They're running out of time. They're barely in the wild card race, so I think for them, it's just that, like you said, just be more consistent on offense. We'll see what happens.
Going to be very interesting here now. Before we get to the schedule, I know we got a few more minutes before the top of the hour. Now, of course, Cal Raleigh hit another home run. You know, he has 47, which is the leader in all MLB. He actually is second in RBIs in all of MLB. Of course, after Schwarber's also right there behind him when it comes to home runs. Talk about Raleigh. You think those two guys are the favorites for MVP right now?
Oh, no question about it. We talked about them just about all year long, especially with Aaron Judge before he went out for a minute with that shoulder injury. He was right there with Cal Raleigh. Now that Judge is back, he has 40 home runs of the year. Judge is still in the race. It's between him and Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh, as we talked about LaKeena, when he got off to that hot start in April, could he keep this up? Well, the answer is yes after signing that contract extension. So he's carrying that Seattle lineup right now. I know he has help with Josh Naylor and Randy Rosarina and Eugenio Suarez, who they picked up from Arizona at the trade deadline. So that should take some pressure off of him. And I know you mentioned about Seattle being rocked by Philadelphia, swept by Philadelphia earlier this week. Now their starting pitch is starting to take a nosedive. Hopefully this doesn't affect them in the long run. But Cal Raleigh has been the glue for that lineup all year long. And Aaron Judge, as I said before, with his presence in that lineup, it makes the rest of his teammates in the Yankees lineup their job that much more easier. So it's those two guys, no question about for the AL MVP.
All right, now we can talk about the scheduling for this weekend. You got Colorado and Pittsburgh. Then you've got Washington and Philadelphia. And MLB Network and Prime Video, this game will be the Yankees and the Red Sox, hosting the Red Sox as they continue their series. Of course, the Red Sox, like I said, won the opener yesterday. Houston and Baltimore. We'll see if Houston can bounce back. Kansas City and Detroit. That first game will be on Apple TV Plus. Toronto and Miami, that'll be on MLB Network. And of course, the second game of the Apple TV Plus regional coverage. You got Atlanta hosting the New York Metropolitans. And you've got St. Louis, going on the road down south to play Tampa Bay in a very minor league-like stadium.
Finish up the rest of the schedule for this weekend. The Minnesota Twins will face Chicago on the south side. Cleveland will visit Texas at Globe Life Park in Arlington. The San Francisco Giants will visit Milwaukee, 90 miles north of us. We mentioned earlier, LaKeena's Cubs will face the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Cincinnati, they'll face Arizona as they're continuing on their West Coast road trip. The LA Dodgers will continue their road trip. They'll face San Diego this weekend. That should be an interesting series. They'll face former Dodger pitcher Yu Darvish tonight in that series opener. In the Athletics, the Oakland A's of Sacramento, as we call them on this show, they'll face LaKeena's other favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, in an important series for the Mariners this weekend. Brian Rule will get the start tonight in the series opener.
Now, your television schedule, of course, MLB Network tomorrow. You got the Red Sox and the Yankees. So you got the Blue Jays and the Marlins. Those games will be on MLB Network, respectively. Your FS1 game of the week for tomorrow. Of course, no Fox game of the week. Just an FYI, since they already had theirs on last night. This will be on FS1. You got the Dodgers and the Padres. For Sunday on your Roku app, you got the Rockies and the Pirates. And MLB Network, you got the Mets and the Braves as they finish their series. And the last of that Boston Yankees series will be at 6 o'clock on ESPN, of course, Sunday Night Baseball. And Busciami will take over the call for this week, as, of course, Carl Rabbit's got commitments over at the Little League World Series. So just a special note there. And that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 is straight ahead right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Friday fun continues. We'll preview tonight's third preseason finale between the Chicago Bears and the Kansas City Chiefs, plus news and nuggets from around the football pigskin, both college and pro. We'll also have a ton of sports media news for you before we close out today's show and a whole lot more. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena, and you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Sex City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded and real live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with the Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow your truly on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my LaKeena McGee on the Twitter X again on IG.
And we're kicking off hour number 2 of this fabulous program, previewing the Bears and Chiefs preseason game number 3, the preseason finale tonight from Arrowhead. And we're talking NFL as well. So if you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects for this half hour, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Bears are down in Kansas City as they will play the Chiefs to cap off their preseason schedule here, and Ben Johnson did say that the starters will play tonight. How long will they play? He didn't say, but they are going to be out there, so we'll see here. Now, I guess if you're the Bears, if you're a Bears fan, I think you might see maybe a couple of series, and that's about it, to see if you can get Caleb Williams and the rest of that group on offense to kind of like get back into a rhythm, but that's sort of like what we're going to see here. Now, again, you might see more guys on the defense side, especially like Andrew Billings or Noah Sewell. We'll see if Ozzie Trapillo can be kind of like that guy, at left tackle and maybe even right guard. But again, that's another thing that I'm probably looking forward to tonight. And I think that's sort of like another thing here too, especially when the third preseason game is going to be the last time we're going to see those guys, the back end guys that I mentioned, to make an impression on the squad with the cut lines coming up next week. You gotta have to. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to want to have to make a nice final impression.
Yeah, and for those guys that are playing tonight, as far as the stars looking, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they followed the same game plan like they did last week against Buffalo. They had 2 series which ended in the first quarter, going into the second quarter. I wouldn't be shocked if it was just for 1 series. But I think it'll be similar to game plan for the Stars like it was last week against Buffalo, which the first scoring drive was great for Caleb Williams and crew, so you had to give him some love for that. But as far as the backups are concerned, LaKeena, I'm looking at Tyson Bagent. Congratulations to him on getting that contract extension, 2 years, $10 million. I know he spoke to the media the other day about that, in which I thought he showed great humility, talking about himself and his family when he was talking about his a new contract. But I'm looking to see what Tyson Bagent does tonight. Looking at a rookie wide receiver, Luther Burden. He had a good performance last week against Buffalo. Let's see what he does tonight. I'm assuming he's going to be with the Stars to start off with, and then kind of veer off into the second team. I want to see what he does. Amalade Zukias. Remember, I wasn't sure about him when Ryan Pohl signed him as a free agent this offseason from Washington. Looks like him and Caleb Williams are starting to build a good rapport. They've been doing that this offseason. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, go to Dan Weaver, the new Bears writer for The Athletic. He has a story about that I think you Bears fans will find interesting. But I want to see what he does tonight if he plays. On the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned about the Noah Sewells and Josh Blackwell, number 39. I think he's been having a good preseason in that secondary for Chicago. If Gert Von Dexter plays, he made a big play last week as far as stopping a run from behind the line. I think this is his last chance, as I mentioned, all off season. He's been having a great camp. He did well last week against Buffalo. If he plays tonight, I want to see if he can make that same impact. And Austin Booker, remember we said it last week. We'll say it again. He had a good preseason last year. It did not translate into the preseason. What will he do for an all-court tonight in this preseason finale?
Another guy that I'm looking forward to seeing is Kareem Magaje, the right tackle spot. I mean, Darnell Wright, you kind of wonder, like, in the back end knows, but especially if he gets hurt or whatever. Talking about Wright, he could be a interesting backup, if you will. So that's another guy that I'm looking to see if he can, make a nice final impression. I know Andrew Billings, everybody keeps saying that they missed him. That defense missed him last year. Oh, okay. He's had an okay camp and an okay preseason, but I want to see a little bit more to see, like, is he worthy of all this hype about him? That was like a big missing piece last year. So that's kind of interesting to see what happens there. I know Carl Jones is another guy. I know he's had an up and down preseason, so that's another guy on the back end that I want to see. I talked about Sewell. I talked about Hicks and such. So, Trey Flowers, of course, with Terrell Smith out for the year. You got to think he's now going to have to step up, if he wants to be right there, number 2 behind Tyreek Stevenson. So, this is kind of interesting, part about the third preseason game. It's always interesting to kind of see who else, on the back end that can kind of like, distinguish themselves from some of the other guys on that back end.
Going back to the offense, I know this will be a redemption of some sorts tonight. Ian Wheeler, the second-year running back, I believe, out of Howard, of course. He tore his ACL last year in Kansas City. He was out for the year. He's been having a great preseason thus far. He had a great performance against Buffalo last week. And I know he's trying to solidify a spot on this team, especially given the foot injury to Roschon Johnson. I want to see what Ian Wheeler does tonight in his redemption state against Kansas City, how many carries he's going to get. I want to see Kyle Monangai. I'm assuming he's going to be with the starters if he plays tonight. I'm not just paying attention to how well he runs in between the tackles, but how well he pass blocks, and will he get a couple opportunities to catch the ball at the backfield. That's what I'm looking for from him tonight.
Now, I think what's interesting for me, I think, is like the names you mentioned, and it's sort of like also when we do see the starters, you want to see, like, is Caleb and the rest of that group still making progress when it comes to offense. I know they had a nice opening drive, but let's also remember too that the Bills didn't play a lot at their the number 1. So Andy Reid said that he is going to play a lot of his number 1s tonight. So we'll see if they can kind of see. Will this be a real litmus test to see what's coming? look, if they keep improving, fine. If they still are struggling, I'm talking about Caleb Williams and the rest of that group. I mean, we may have a problem. You only got 3 weeks until the start of the regular season. So any kinks you want to work on, you want to work on and try to fix. This might be the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And going back to that left tackle position for Chicago, I want to see who starts at left tackle tonight. I assume it's going to be Braxton Jones. If that's the case, that's a great move for Ben Johnson's crew. You got to get him and the rest of his offensive linemen to develop some type of chemistry there. I know that former Chiefs player Joe Tooney probably won't play tonight. You don't need him to play. He'll be just fine when the bell rings in a couple of weeks against the Minnesota Vikings. So Braxton Jones may get the start tonight. If he does, I want to see how well he does. And you mentioned about Kareem Amagashi. He'll get some playing time there. I know they really like Ozzie Triple a lot. I don't think he's your future left tackle, but he definitely could play multiple positions on that offensive line. We'll see how he does tonight. And going on the other side for the Kansas City Chiefs, exactly 2 weeks from tonight, they'll be in Brazil against the LA Chargers. I don't expect the starters to play more than a series tonight because you had to figure that they're going to have to be traveling early around this, assuming this time next week, to get themselves acclimated to the time zone in Brazil. And so if you're Patrick Mahomes' crew, hopefully you come out of there with no injuries. I'm sure Andy Reid is just going to get them a series to get themselves acclimated and get their timing down. So I don't expect the Chiefs starters to go no more than a series. If they do, then there's something else that's in the water that we don't know about. But for the Chiefs, I expect them just to play one series just to get acclimated, get the Kings out. For the Bears starters, probably the same thing, but it's going to be I'm focusing more on their backups tonight to see who's going to make this team, who's going to be on the practice squad or looking for a job elsewhere.
I think I heard Jim Harbaugh say that they're actually going to be leaving, I think, next week. Because I think it's like the 4-hour time difference between Los Angeles and Sao Paulo. I think Sao Paulo's like in the Eastern time zone, I believe.
Sao Paulo, sorry, not Brazil, but Sao Paulo.
Yeah. No, it's in Brazil. It's Brazil.
It was in Brazil. I was right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm corrected. Thank you.
Yeah. So you got it right. Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Thank you.
Second largest city after the Rio, and then it's Brasilia. But a little geography lesson for you folks. But
if that's the case, Andy Reid will probably be leaving the same time too.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. And like I said, we'll see. Like I said, they don't play until the Friday the 5th, so the September 5th. So they got a little bit of time. Like I said, I'm sure they're going to have to get those guys there early. So because I think that's what they did the last season. And that's what the Eagles and the Packers did last year when they were in Rio playing in their game. So their opener. So we'll see what happens there. Just a second see sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Talking some Bears. Now we're going to transition over to some NFL news. A couple of big trades came out within the last couple of days. We'll start with on Wednesday. Speaking of the Chiefs, Sky Moore, one of their wide receivers, he got traded to the 49ers for future 6 and 7 round picks. And that's not all for the 49ers. They also get Brian Robinson Jr., the running back for the Commanders, in exchange for a couple of late swap of picks here. So with the injuries that the 49ers have had, I think, getting Sky Moore, they're a proven guy that's won a couple of Super Bowls with them, and he can also return punts and kickoffs as well. They've had some injury issues in the that back end with the running back, especially with getting Robinson Jr. So they definitely, the 49ers have definitely plugged some holes and what's missing for them, especially with injuries.
Yeah, didn't the 49ers lose one of their backups via free agency earlier this year and this offseason? I want to say yes. So Brian Robinson Jr., we saw flashes with him, as you mentioned, with the Commanders. So he can fill that rolling nicely. And heaven forbid, should Christian McCaffrey go down, if he goes down again, you'll have a solid backup in Brian Robinson Jr. Now, the punt return game, I know the NFL wants the special teams to matter, but with this dynamic kickoff rule and all that BS, unfortunately, at least the kickoff portion of it doesn't matter as much. The punt return game still does, but the 49ers did well there. John Lynch, their GM, is still making moves, and if the 49ers stay healthy, they should at least make a run at the playoffs. In my opinion, it's going to be between them and the Rams for the NFC West division title.
Yeah, I really think that health is good because remember, health was an issue for the 49ers last year. That's why they struggled. And well, they still kick the Bears' butts, even though they were shorthanded. They were still able to kick the Bears' butts. Go figure. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, I mean, Purdy's got that nice contract, so you gotta think he's gonna wanna, he's gonna want to live up to that. So I'm sure he's gonna have a lot to prove with that contract. Now, Debo's gone. But again, you still got guys in that back end. Like I said, we'll talk more NFC West next week because we're gonna have a guest on coming on to talk about it. But you still got Ayuk and Jennings. That's why they made the trade for Sky Moore because a lot of those guys are still hurt and such. Now you still got Mr. Kittle and Juszczyk, Trent Williams still. You got the defense. I know. Nick Bosa's still there, but I know he's been kind of in and out with training camp. You still you still got Fred Warner, who's one of the best linebackers in the league. So as long as you got those two guys, you still got you got D Winters, you got Jair Brown and such. So I think the thing is there for San Francisco to perhaps maybe make a move. I know that their schedule is not the hardest, if you will, if you depend on the schedule makers. You go by what
unlike the Bears.
Right, exactly. So, they could win 11 or 12 and get that NFC West title back. But, that's going to be interesting. But, yeah, this is a couple of really great moves that was needed for the 49ers.
Yeah, for the 49ers, it's all about health this year, and they could do that. They'll be up there for a playoff spot, and I think they'll have a fighting chance in the NFC West title against potentially the Rams if they can get Matthew Stafford up between now and then before the start of the season.
Now let's go to the South, where the Panthers they extend their right tackle Taylor Morton to a couple years to succession. Probably one of the top right tackles that you probably have a better right tackle. Gets $40 million guaranteed, so he gets a nice fresh paper, as the kids would say. So a nice showing by him, and also they have inquired with the Vikings, perhaps maybe Adam Thielen returning to the Vikings. Because remember, the Vikings, they're kind of shorthanded with the wide receiver for different reasons. But, going back there, JJ McCarthy, I think he would love to have an extra guy to throw to Adam Thielen. So I think this could be a nice move. Now, they haven't, like I said, nothing's official yet, but I guess they're still trying to work out compensation and such. But could they make this happen before the start of the season, perhaps maybe the next week or two? I think this could definitely help Minnesota tremendously.
Yeah, the wide receiver room will look better on paper, especially when we mentioned with Jordan Addison missing her first 3 games of the year. Alan Thielen, who knows the system, he was with the Vikings for a long time. He's familiar with that community. He's familiar with that organization. I know he's going to potentially work with another new quarterback, but just his veteran presence will help out the rest of the guys in that office and in that locker room. Yes, Justin Jefferson is the top wide receiver in the game, but with those two alone, that can scare anybody. Yes, Adam Thielen doesn't have it like Justin Jefferson does in terms of talent, but he brings in that veteran experience and showing those young guys how to do it. So that's very important for a good and young and hungry Minnesota Vikings team, especially with the quarterback JJ McCarthy and these other experience he can get.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, Thielen grew up not too far. I think he grew up like about an hour, outside of the Twin Cities. So yeah, he knows that community very well because he's from there. And remember, with Addison being suspended for 3 games, the first 2 games, I know Jalen Naylor, who they just drafted. I know he's had his struggles with injuries. Starting this year, but I think he's definitely getting Adam Thielen back, a guy who knows, like you said, and a veteran guy that could definitely help JJ McCarthy, especially because he's going to have a lot to prove about McCarthy. Is the fact that, look, Sam Darnold got the Vikings got that far last year. So let's see how he does. And so that's why they didn't make the moves for like a Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers. They're kind of putting all their eggs in the Jay McCarthy basket, which is not a bad thing, but what if he stinks? That's really I think because I've talked to some people from Minnesota who are big Vikings fans, and I think that's one thing they're worried about is that they made moves, they brush up on their defense. You still got Harrison Smith over there and Jonathan Allen, but the JJ McCarthy is like the number one question mark. So that's that's kind of freaking them out a little bit.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. We want to hear your thoughts about the Chicago Bears and the rest of the NFL for you Bears fans out there. What are you expected tonight? Which players or players there you're looking out for tonight? What do you expect from the stars? Your questions and comments can be directed at Sports on Chicago's Facebook page or Sports on Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. As you mentioned, the preseason finale is this weekend. 2 games took place yesterday. One of them was on Amazon Prime, in which I don't have and I do not care to get at this very time. I'll leave that conversation for another day. But the New York Football Giants, they dominated the New England Patriots 42-10. And speaking of the Carolina Panthers, as you mentioned earlier, LaKeena, they lose their preseason finale to the Pittsburgh Steelers 19-10.
Yeah, Jackson Dart for the Giants. I know there was a little bit of an injury scare there, but he looks like he was all he escaped any major injury, so they said he should be good to go for their first game. Don't know yet who's going to end up starting, but that's a whole different thing. Of course, it's going to be interesting. I know he's had a good camp, but again, that could be a whole different thing. Of course, you've got Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson over there as well. Going to be interesting to see what the depth chart's going to be once that plays out. But that's going to be kind of like a thing here. See what happens. But we didn't see, like I said, the Steelers. We didn't see Aaron Rodgers all preseason. You probably weren't going to see him anyway. So it is what it is with that. I mean, I'm kind of interested. Like for me, I think if you want to go by like the last week of the season, I think that Giants team. I know some people say that could the Giants perhaps maybe because let's be honest, that whole brass is on the hot seat. So let's see how this kind of all shakes out with this.
Yeah, a couple of questions for the Giants, and I know we'll dive into more next week. But their defense doesn't actually look that bad on paper. How well will they carry the team? That's the number one question that remains to be seen. Number 2, who's going to be that number 2 wide receiver next to Malik Neighbors, now entering his second year out of LSU? And number 3, how much playing time will Jackson Dart get this season? Because we all know we saw with Russell Wilson these last couple years, especially last year with Pittsburgh. I know he started out the year injured, but when he came back into the lineup, he did well. And then when things started to go south, he went south with them. So I don't expect Russell Wilson to play the whole year. That's why this preseason has been very important for Jackson Dart. As of right now, he's the future of the New York Giants. And the third question I have for that team is how much will he play this year? And I think we made a bet, LaKeena, when the Giants come here to play the Bears in November, Jackson Dart will be a starter. It won't be Russell Wilson. I can almost guarantee you that.
Yeah, it probably won't be. So that's because I don't want to say this is a lame duck year for them, but it might be. You might as well call it that. So we just see what happens here. Now the Colts finish up their preseason against Cincinnati. Now the big story here with the Colts, they do that tomorrow at noon. But the big story for the Colts is that they've named Daniel Jones their starter, which I don't think anybody is surprised by.
No.
Now some people are saying that what to do with Anthony Richardson, and I know I heard the guys get up talking about this a lot the last couple of days. It's all about reps. I mean, let's remember, people need to remember Anthony Richardson didn't get a lot of reps when he was at Florida. He was sharing the starting job with somebody there, and it's unfortunate that that Steichen and then the rest of the group didn't really know what to do with him. I know the late great Jim Irsay, I know he kind of pushed them to take Richardson, which they probably didn't want to. But again, I know Dan Orlovsky said that they should that the team should offer the Colts a mid-round pick for Richardson. You got the Eagles, the Rams, and the Vikings, which I gotta say, like, what would the Eagles need to trade for him for? I know the system are going to be doing that system, but again, like, he's not going to have a chance to start. The Rams, maybe. I mean, we don't know if Matthew Stafford can stay upright, and you don't know what you're going to get.
And they got Garoppolo.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with him. Now, Minnesota, maybe, especially, like I said, if like I said a minute ago, if McCarthy isn't very good, again, sort of a similar system. But look, Kevin O'Connor made Sam Darnold into got him a second life. I mean, why not? But I don't know. It just seems like, I think that all those three teams, I think the Vikings are really the only team that makes the most sense.
I agree with you more because the Vikings have more weapons on offense, obviously on offense than the thing for the Colts. You're caught between a rock and a hard place because the Colts, they've been average at best for the last 3 or 4 years, and they just can't get over that hump to get back into the playoffs. So, I think, like you said, Daniel Jones. I know he's been a backup for the last couple of years, and he had that one hot streak with the Giants when he got them into the playoffs. I think it was in 2021. So he's been mediocre ever since. But do you really trust Daniel Jones for an entire season? For recent history, you would say no. For Anthony Richardson, yes, part of it has been due to injuries, but for what you just described is a organizational structure, is a organizational failure, and the Colts will have to wear a lot of that as well. So, but as far as keeping him, I think he will be useful in some sorts this year. Like you said, let's just say they trade him to Minnesota or the Rams, and he like you said, let's just say they trade him for conversational purposes. If they trade him to Minnesota and Kevin O'Connell gets something out of him, if you're in Indianapolis, we could have done that here, but it was our fault.
Yeah, so that's good. It's gonna be interesting down there in Indy, and then see what all this kind of like shapes out here. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting though, nonetheless.
Yeah, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena here with you, talking Bears in the NFL. Let's run down the schedule for the third preseason weekend of action. This is the preseason finale for everybody. We mentioned there was 2 games that were played last night. There are a couple of games that will be played tonight. Philadelphia face the New York Jets. The Vikings, as we mentioned, they'll face the Tennessee Titans. That's tonight on CBS at 7 o'clock. And we'll have the Falcons and the Cowboys at the same time on NFL Network. LaKeena, quickly, I know Michael Irvin, he has his own YouTube channel. I saw a little bit of the clip. He had owner Jerry Jones on his YouTube channel the other day. Jerry Jones, I know you're in attention, you know what? I know he's a great businessman, using that in air quotes. I know he loves attention. He's not going to shy away from it, but I don't need you to speak anymore. Stay in the background. I know it's an impossible task, but stay in the background. Handle your business with Michael Parsons. Get on with the season, and let's go from there. I'm just saying. I don't know about you.
Well,
and now you know why many people like us are sick of the Cowboys.
Well, there's a Netflix doc that's on right now about the Cowboys, so good luck with that. But America's Team, the Gambler, and his Cowboys, which premiered early this week. You can watch it if you got it on Netflix, and then I'm sure they'll have it on YouTube at some point. And someone's going to post it on YouTube too, whether Netflix likes it or not. So now, if you saw Michael Parsons' post on social media last night, let me see if I can get it up for y'all real quick. It's just kind of like I said. I'm not I don't read the Bible. I'm not a religious person, but they'll take that for what you judge me, if you will. But yeah, even if I fall, I will rise. The Lord is my light. That's what Parsons said on his social media. Apparently, he scrubbed all the Cowboy stuff from his social media. Then you hear Jerry Jones say that, well, I offered him the most money of a non-QB. He told him to go to hell, basically. So it's just like, okay. All right, this is
childish for both of them.
Yeah. So
keep that stuff behind closed doors and work it out and go on about your business professionally. Both of them.
Yeah, just figure it out, please. But yeah, we'll talk about the Cincy stuff in a second. You got the Bears in Kansas City. That game will be on the local Fox affiliates. Yeah, so on Fox 32 as they finish up against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. We'll see how much of the first stringers play. So we'll see what happens there. Now, the game's coming up tomorrow. You got Boston and Washington, the I-57 series, as they call it. Those folks call it.
Boston?
Yeah, Baltimore and Washington. Yep.
I thought you said Boston. No,
you heard wrong. Baltimore.
Okay,
and,
that's what I asked. I was just making sure.
yeah. I said Baltimore. I might have said it too fast. That's probably why you thought I thought I said. That's going to be the ESPN Unlimited app, which they just launched yesterday. So if you want to download that app, you can watch the games here.
For me personally, no, thank you.
yeah, that's true too. Yeah, like I said, you probably won't see Lamar Jackson. You didn't see him much. You haven't seen him much in the whole preseason. Jaden Dale's the same thing. So yeah, you'll probably won't see him that much now. Cincinnati, they host Indianapolis. It's also on the ESPN Unlimited app. Now the Trey Henderson thing, that's becoming. I know I've heard various both stations in Chicago making very unrealistic trade proposals for Hendrickson for the Bears to take. Yeah, I don't look unless you're gonna throw in somebody. You want a Khalil Mack, Hendrickson, have at it. But you saw that Khalil Mack trade. I mean, he had his moments, but yeah, we know that deal did not turn out very well for the Bears.
And plus, like I said, he was suffering from injuries too his last couple of years in a Chicago uniform. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Trey Hendrickson is going to come with a heavy price tag, and for the Bears, you're not just worried about winning now, but you're worried about the road ahead, especially in the couple of years where you have potentially, and I say potentially, have to pay Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and maybe some of the other guys in that secondary. So. Is it worth it to go all in right now on him? Probably not. Like I said, I give the Bears credit for managing their salary cap situation. But if you're Ryan Poles, you really want to pay tomorrow's prices today and then suffer later that you can't re-sign your key guys because you're paying this guy this amount of money what the market is telling you that he's worth. And then you remember you just gave Montez Sweat fresh cash before the start of last season, so.
You gave Kyler Gordon money, you gave Darnell Wright money. They really don't have a lot of money left in the cap, so whatever they decide, you're not going to get Henderson to take a discount. So we'll see what happens here. Now the Rams, they go on the road to face Cleveland. That's going to be on the NFL Network at noon tomorrow. Then you got Houston and Detroit. That's going to be on ESPN Unlimited. Local blackouts, unfortunately, apply on the ESPN app, folks. So sorry, you're not going to be able to watch Nestle until it's blacked out. And you got Denver and the Saints at noon.
Yep, Seahawks and Packers, Jaguars and Dolphins, Bills at Buccaneers, Chargers at 49ers, and we'll have the Raiders in the Arizona Cardinals. They'll finish up your preseason schedule for tomorrow in the National Football League.
Both on the NFL. Well, that's going to be on the NFL Network as well as the Jacksonville and the Dolphins and the Seahawks and the Packers on the NFL Network too. Right. They're quadruple header, if you will, to finish up the preseason.
Coming up next, right here on Second City Sports, we'll have a lot of sports media news in our sports potpourri segments or any other discussions and topics that we had thus far on the show. You could discuss it, throw your opinions right in our faces. We will take it. We'll take the agreements along with the disagreements as well. And we'll just have a whole lot of fun wrapping up another busy week for us right here on Second City Sports. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports and Hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X again, IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. So any topics and subjects that we discussed thus far on today's show, you can have that as far as your opinions our way. You can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the open screen for you.
We got week 0 college football starting tomorrow. There are only 5 games on tap for tomorrow. So not a lot of the big matchup here for this week. You got Iowa State and Kansas State, both top 25 teams in the Big 12, playing all the way in Ireland. Don't ask why they're playing in Ireland.
You could have had better teams like you did Notre Dame a couple years ago. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Notre Dame and I think Navy, who they played. That was the earliest that those 2 teams have played. But yeah, it's a little bit weird. But you got a little college football and the weird things that they do sometimes. Now, Dave Pass, Dusty Dvorak, former Bear, and Taylor McGregor. For those of you who are going to, don't look for her on the sidelines. I'm on the dugout for the Cubs in their series against the Angels. She's actually in Ireland right now. As Iowa State will be facing K-State. So it should be an interesting matchup there. Like I said, both teams are in the top 25. A lot expected for both teams this year in the Big 12. They could challenge very well in the Big 12. So we'll see. But yeah, you can check that game out at 11 a.m. Chicago time, which will be prime time over there in Ireland on ESPN, the big ESPN network.
LaKeena, you know me, I'm not a college football head like that, but I am waiting for next week because that's when the real action begins for college football, because you have your non-conference games that they'll be starting up, and our local teams will be starting up as well. Illinois, they'll play Western Illinois next week. Like I said, we'll dive deeper more into it next week, but the big one here for next week will be Texas and Ohio State. That'll be the big noon Saturday kickoff. Big noon Saturday. There we go. A big noon Saturday kickoff. Of course, you have Syracuse and Tennessee, and you have some other exciting matchups as well. So, like I said, we'll dive deeper into it on our shows coming up next week. But this is the time of year, I know for you especially, because you're a college sports nut, and with the college, I think we talked about this the other day. I'll bring it up with you again quickly about expanding the college football playoff. Why are, outside of course of money, why are we doing this? Just leave stuff alone and let it be what it is. This is just me.
Yeah, we talked about on Monday that the Big Ten is pushing for us, maybe do like a 24-2018 playoff,
Okay.
which, like I said, you might as well. Yeah, well, you might as well just make it into like what college basketball does. Luckily, they're not going to expand just yet, thank goodness. But yeah, 24-28. Okay, how are you going to do that? Unless you start the season early, or you start the season, you end the season later, or you just end the season early. That way you can get those games. But yeah, or get rid of some of those rivalry games. But you know, like I said, college sports do crazy things sometimes, so it's a little bit nutty. Now, among some of the other games that'll be on tap on Fox, you got the Big Fox Network. You got Kansas, hoping they had a nice little comeback last year after starting, had a slow start. they're investing a lot of money into that program. If you guys saw that, they're gonna remodel their David Booth Memorial Stadium in Lawrence. They actually made like a nice little, yeah. So they had a nice rendering of how they're gonna add some seats. It's gonna be a nice, probably one of the nicest. Like, I love the NIL money and the booster money. So it's interesting that they're actually are investing money in the Kansas football program. Which 20 years ago, if you had asked me that, I thought that they would never do that. But again, good for Lance Leopold and the rest of the Kansas football team. We'll see how they do against Fresno State tomorrow on Fox, the big Fox network. Yes, Sam Houston State against Western Kentucky on CBS Sports Network. I believe our buddy Randy Crosswell had the call for that game. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that. Then you got Stanford against Hawaii on CBS and Paramount Plus. Hey, you get to watch a Hawaii game before midnight our time, so you get to watch
you.
Exactly. Incarnate Ward against Nichols, FCS action on ESPN. Portland State hosted Charlotte State on ESPN2. You got UC Davis versus Mercer on ESPN. And a little late for your HBCU fans. You got North Carolina Central against Southern on the prime slot tomorrow on ABC at 6:30. I'm glad that ESPN and ABC, you're having it on there. It rates very well. You get to watch a little battle of the bands with the North Carolina Central and Southern. So get a little bit of entertainment there as well. And hopefully, you also get a great football game to boot.
Yeah, well, we see Nick Cannon or Chicago's very own Jason Weaver in those halftime shows. Shout out to the movie Drumline from some years ago.
Yeah, folks. Yeah, that was Drumline. For those who don't know, yeah, great movie. I wish they had done a second one, but yeah, we gotta do that for old school TV Monday at some point. That movie, but I wish they had done a second one, but again, that's a different conversation for a different time.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. Speaking of ESPN, reading this headline from our good folks at Awful Announcing. Rejoice! ESPN has eliminated the paywall from its written content. As you know, the main articles have been on ESPN.com for years, but for the inside juicy stuff, you had to sign up for their ESPN Plus, not the TV, but I forgot what it was called. But for the extra stuff, you had to sign up to get the extra articles, which I kind of got why they did that, but that element has now been eliminated.
Yeah, thank goodness. So especially all the ESPNW articles, some of those articles you've had to go through a paywall. So I'm glad that they've gotten rid of all that. And also traffic, I think they needed traffic, so that's probably why they got rid of the paywall and those mainly for those parts of the website. But yeah, I'm glad that they are. Especially with stuff like with the fantasy football. I know I have a couple leagues coming up next weekend. I know I'm sure you do too. You do as well, Sid, and that's probably why they do that. That's probably one of the reasons why they're doing it too. So yeah, I'm glad they are getting rid of a lot of that, because that was annoying as hell for that. Especially when trades come and such, you gotta go, oh no, I'm not going through a paywall. So
exactly. Staying with ESPN, LaKeena, I didn't get a chance to watch the whole episode. I was basically watching baseball, but I did get a chance to catch a couple of clips online. This past Monday, of course, Rich Eisen, his show will debut on ESPN Radio on Tuesday, September 2nd. Keep that in mind. We'll talk about that part of it coming up. But the first part I want to talk about, that he hosted a special edition of Sports Center this past Monday. Of course, he took a few moments in the beginning of the episode to pay tribute to his late great friend, Mr. Stuart Scott. I watched it a couple of times. I almost got teary-eyed myself. And Rich Eisen, I thought, carried himself well, did a good job paying tribute to his late co-worker and friend.
Yeah, they actually, the first thing I posted was a video of the commercial that the sports Center added there with Kobe Bryant. So that was definitely nice to see there. And also to open it, they actually used the old Sports Center music, which I thought was really in
the graphics nice too.
Yeah, that I wish they would have kept that, but I guess the conversation. But yeah, I watched it. It definitely felt like Sports Center. Like, I don't watch Sports Center as much as I used to for various reasons, but that felt like a nostalgic Sports Center to me. So yeah, that was really sweet. And also the tribute to Stuart Scott was definitely a nice icing on the cake there.
Yeah, I think the $1 million question is, especially with them finally introducing a direct-to-consumer service for fans that do not have a cable or satellite subscription. With the direct-to-consumer services, now that they're going to buy not MLB Network, but MLB TV, where all
That
the
TV, yeah.
out of market games are located. Of course, yours surely has that right now. And of course, they had the NHL Center Ice, which you can see on ESPN Plus if you subscribe to ESPN Plus. So they'll be about the same thing. But the $1 million question is, will we see ESPN at least a fraction of it of what we used to watch growing up? And Rich Eis's numbers for that sports center actually did pretty well.
Yeah, it did actually get radio. I think it was like one of the highest rated sports centers, I think like in the last couple of years. And they didn't have to go through all the weirdness of, talking about the Cowboys and the Braun and them like that. So that was a really nice, that was really good to see there and such. So yeah, I think people like me who don't watch sport, who used to watch sports but don't do it anymore. I think a lot of folks tune in to watch, particularly him. So yeah, I'm glad, I'm happy for the folks there, the Heights. They really put that together as well. And also for Rich too. He wasn't rusty at all. He didn't skip a beat.
Yeah. And speaking of his radio show, we'll bring it back to here in Chicago. As I mentioned, Rich Eis's radio shows now will be on ESPN Radio starting on Tuesday, September 2nd. Now, bringing here to Chicago, ESPN 1000 here in Chicago, they switched their lineup to accommodate the Rich Eisen show. Your new lineup starting less than 2 weeks from 6 to 9 a.m. Cap and J Hood. From 9 to noon, Carmen and Yurko. Of course, Rich Eisen's show, which is 3 hours, it'll be carried live in Chicago for the last 2 hours from noon to 2. So Rich Eisen's show will be airing live noon to 2 here in Chicago, followed by Black and Abdallah, uninterrupted from 2 to 3. I'm so happy for those gentlemen. Of course, we saw both of them down in IMS, LaKeena. Both of them great gentlemen. I wish they would have got 2 hours, but they had to go through Bristol. It is what it is. But they'll be the bridge into Waddle and Sylvie from 3 to 6:30. So they'll be your daily lineup for ESPN Chicago starting on Tuesday, September 2nd, accommodating the Rich Eisen show. The Rich Eisen show will be airing on ESPN Radio in many markets nationally for the entire 3 hours from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. But in Chicago, it'll be airing the last 2 hours from noon to 2. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've kind of figured that this was going to be the case where they were going to have to, especially with the Rich Eisen, of course, their commitments to ESPN, the main ESPN radio. You got sports like it's going to be for an hour. I wonder how our buddy Jonathan Hood feels about having to get up an extra hour. 6 a.m. I don't know how he feels about that. And of course, you got Carmen and Yurko. Like I said, I wish they would do Carmen and a Hoodie, but again, that's another conversation for another time. Rich Eisen, like I said, I've listened to his show. As long as they kind of let him be himself, I think I don't think he would have made this move if he didn't think that he was able to keep like the personality that made the show as popular as it's been, both streaming and on YouTube and on the radio and such. So I think this is a nice move for him. Like you know how much I love Black and Abdallah. Like I said, they were my teachers for most of the time I was there at IMS. So I'm happy for them. Like I said, I love listening to their podcast. Like I'm with you. I wish they had given them 2 hours, but you know how it is with the Bristol stuff. Good cover band, but they will be that bridge, with Wall and Sylvie, the crosstalk. That should be look, they work there, they know how it works. So yeah, that should be a good one here. Now I do wonder though, how will this go up against the 670 Score, which our friends there, because you got more local programming, especially after Bears games, especially since they're at least right now the radio home for the Bears. So this could be something here, but they don't report their listenership. But I'm wondering, for what I've heard, the listenership ratings aren't very good. So they think they're trying to do this not only to kind of help with accommodate the Rich Eisen show, but also to help with their ratings.
Don't forget, LaKeena, I know this is going on right now, but Clinton and Friends is on from 10 to noon. The last 2 hours of that show, like Rich Eisen's show, will be starting on Tuesday, September 2nd. Remember, they had some Bears breaking news, but I think at the time they were airing the tape delay version of Mike Greenberg's show from 10 to noon, and ESPN chose to stick with the re-airing of the program, which was a bad move. We know that news breaks at any time, especially in the sports world. But if anything happens between 10 and noon, Carmen and Yurko will actually have the chance to break the news. But I think if it's something serious, like if someone gets traded or heaven forbid somebody passes away, like a Ryan Sandberg or something of that figure, I think they will break in. if you know if it happens, if the breaking news should occur between 12 and 2 with Rich Eisen, I think that common sense will have to prevail up there for them to do that. But a couple of news broke, a piece of Bears news broke over the last few months, and they decided to run with national programming, which was a dumb move because let's be honest here, LaKeena, especially us here in Chicago, we want our news, we want to now whatever our listening habits are, whether it's both stations or one or the other, whether it's ESPN 1000 or 670 The Score. We don't want to go to wherever station is for them to talk about it right then and there. If one station has it on where a host is talking about New York Jets or LeBron or wherever, we don't care about that. If let's just say, for example, if breaking news is happening with the Bears, or like if Caleb gets traded, or heaven forbid somebody important dies, we want to go to the station where they talk about it here and there and get their instant reaction. If you have one station that's committed to tape delay programming, I want to go to the other station where they're talking about right there and there and get the reaction and get the opinions that I have, and that's where people are going.
Yeah, I think that's probably another reason for this move as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of parameters here there. That's probably why you're the moving parts here. But yeah, interesting move here. But like I said, we'll see how it shakes out. Like because like we said, unlike The Score, ESPN in Chicago they'll report their ratings. So we just see if this gives them that ratings boost that from what I've heard that they desperately need.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Bears, I know they have the White Sox over there now, but I know they had it since 2021 for the second time. I'm talking for the White Sox, but if it wasn't for the Bears, that station, even though it's ESPN, that station would be irrelevant right now. And I'm just speaking facts, nothing personal against the personnel over there. We had them, we know them very well. We come on, we had on our show, but like you said, Chicago's a very competitive town for sports and for everything else as well. So if you don't give the people what they want right away, you're going to hear about it. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely. So, like I said, that lineup starts on September 2nd after Labor Day. So, a couple more weeks, just over a week before it starts. So, yeah, so make your adjustments accordingly.
Speaking of another former ESPNer, Dan Patrick on his radio show, I think it's coming to an end in a couple of years. He announced his retirement. He said that it's not too long that the NFL will have a Super Bowl overseas, in particular in London. Did you hear about this? If so, thoughts, young lady?
Yeah, I saw that, and I'm wondering, like, okay, well, I mean, that means that so there's about a 7 hour difference between the East Coast and London. So that means you're going to have the Super Bowl at maybe noon or 1 o'clock, which that could work. I mean, like you said, once the game is over, there'll be about 3 or 4 or 5. That's dinner time for a lot of folks out east. So that might actually work in folks' favor. Now, again, on the flip side of that is going to be interesting because if you got folks doing the pregame shows and such, then they'll have to be on at like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. So I don't know if people are going to want to do that, but I mean, it's interesting. I know because we've heard this before, right? I think we've had folks say that don't be surprised with the next. I think John Oran said this that don't be surprised with the next decade we may see a Super Bowl overseas. I mean, we'll see, but yeah, will that fly here? Maybe. It depends on the region of the country you live at, but I don't know. What do you think?
Here's a couple of things. How wherever two teams play in the Super Bowl, how are you going to accommodate some of those fans to London? And the reason why I say that is because even though we haven't gone through a tough time within our economy right here in the United States, how many people have that much disposable income to fly overseas to watch their favorite team in the Super Bowl? Number two, how are you going to accommodate the sponsors? I think that's the way you can figure that, so I'll leave that part of it out. But how are you going to accommodate the fans that really don't want to travel from the United States to London to watch their favorite team play in the championship game? Which will bring up point number two. How many of those fans will be quote-unquote local fans that'll fill their stadium? My assumption is there'll be at least 50%, probably a little bit more of those local fans posing as wherever teams fans are to watch the Super Bowl. And you brought up the third point, which is number three. The travel, whichever network is hosted the Super Bowl that year. And remember, growing up, LaKeena, this didn't change until 25 years ago, at least 25 years ago. Remember the Super Bowl, the network pregame show? Remember, you didn't have NFL Network back then. ESPN was the only network at that time was doing more than 2 hours as far as pregame for the Super Bowl. But now with these networks paying big bucks to air the Super Bowl, you have 5-6 hours of pregame, and you want to do 3 or 4 in the morning over there as far as pregame show. Good luck. I'm not saying it can be pulled off, but that time difference is major. It really is.
Well, yeah, especially if you're out west and they start like 1 or 2 in the morning. Like, I guess you're gonna have to stay up perhaps and probably watch it. So how are you gonna accommodate those folks if the game starts at noon? That's like 11 a.m., 10 a.m., or if you're Hawaii, like 8 a.m. So you're basically telling the folks in Hawaii that, oh, you gotta get up at about like you basically gotta stay up if you want to watch the Super Bowl. Basically, just take a nap, take a long nap like the day before, and just get your snacks and stuff like that. Will you be eating breakfast or like maybe a late morning snack while you're watching the Super Bowl, or a mid morning snack or a late morning snack or something? So yeah, the timing part of it is going to be it's going to be hard to sell for a network and even the sponsors. The sponsors, they'll figure that part out, but it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I mean, would I be surprised if it happened in the next decade? No. Do I think it will happen? I doubt it.
And here's with those 5 or 6 hour pregame shows that these networks do. You'll see with NBC this year because they have the Super Bowl from San Francisco. I know it's technically in Santa Clara, but I know San Francisco's near it. With those 5 or 6 hour pregame shows, are you gonna do a lot of tape delay stuff that you can see just like that on YouTube? That's not gonna fly over very well.
Especially when people like show their commercials during that time too. So you got to get that view. The peak viewers are those last like 2 or 3 hours, those pregame shows. So you're talking like 10 a.m. Until like whenever kickoff is. They'll say like 12:30, 12:37 our time or whatever. Well, I'll even go further than that, like maybe like 9:30 or something like that. You're gonna have folks eating breakfast while they're watching Super Bowl pregame shows. I mean, that's not going to be very practical for some folks. So you're gonna have to figure out a lot of things. You're gonna have to give a lot of advance warning for a lot of this.
Speaking of NFL overseas, we know that the Minnesota Vikings will be playing, I believe, in 2 different cities overseas in back-to-back weeks this year, which I still find it weird. But Week 4's matchup with the Steelers and Vikings, it will be called by Fox's number 2 team, and Joe Davis and Greg Olsen from Ireland in Week 4.
Yeah, I saw this. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is a Fox game. So yeah, I think this is a nice showing for them. I think this is gonna be their first time gonna be calling games for those two overseas. So yeah, I don't think you were gonna send Tom Brady out there. Although I'm sure the Pro Folks Island would have minded, but I think you were gonna that wasn't gonna fly with some people. So yeah, I think that was a smart move getting your number 2 team out there. But like you said, having Minnesota go back to back, it's just for Week 4 and 5. Now they do have a bye week after that. So I think you're Minnesota. You better have a bye week after that. So they're going to be playing in a different stadium where K-State and Iowa State will be playing there. They're going to play across town at Coke Park, which is one of their bigger stadiums in Dublin. So that's where they're going to be playing their game. So and then after that, they play at Tottenham Stadium in London. So they're going to be like right there in the same region. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're gonna have to. They better make sure they pack a month's worth of stuff. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and let's see how the Vikings handle it as we get into the season. Going into you're listening to Second City Sports Zone Chicago. Say LaKeena here on our Sports Potpourri segment. This is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the subjects we discussed thus far on today's show, you definitely hit us up on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get up on the screen for you. Let's go to baseball. NBC and MLB is nearing a Sunday night baseball deal worth nearly $200 million per year. And it looks like Netflix is going to pick up Home Run Derby.
Yeah, and also we talked about earlier with the ESPN, getting some of their parts. So they will still be involved in baseball now. That where this lineup now, should this become official with NBC, that means they'll have Sunday night baseball, Sunday night football, and Sunday night NBA, which of course that'll start this coming weekend. So yeah, NBC shut out a lot of money. That's why they bumped up the price of their Peacock app, but that's another conversation. So yeah, $200 million. Yeah, that was gonna be too much for ESPN's, but like I said, they still gonna be involved in baseball. They're still gonna have the out of market and some in market games. So it's fine. But yeah, the NBC, yeah, it's gonna be a fresh new take with NBC maybe taking over next year.
And it looks like they're going to get a wild card series in there as well. Of course, those wild card series they're a short series, best 2 out of 3. So, NBC Sports, we talked about a couple months ago. They're going to dominate Sundays from start to finish. You mentioned with the Sunday Night Football, the number 1 show here in America in this time slot, and then you'll have Sunday Night Hoops, followed by Sunday Night Baseball, late spring into summer, and of course. You have of course, you're back to football again. So, excuse me. So NBC Sports is really shelling out all the dough right now. Not only that they have almost all 4, except they have 3 of the 4 major sports except for hockey. And of course, they make it up with they'll have the Winter Olympics this year. Of course, 3 years from now here in America, they'll have the Summer Olympics from Los Angeles. So the NBC did have the NHL. Obviously, they don't need them now. They're heavily involved with the Olympics, of course, with the NBA starting up again in the fall. And of course, let's not forget, I think they have a new announcing crew. They have Notre Dame football back again this year. So NBC Sports is heavily invested with, of course, not only Notre Dame, or in terms of college sports, Notre Dame, Big Ten football, but going back into Major League Baseball, they're the number 1 network right now in America.
Yeah, and they're showing you why as well now. Speaking of that college football and such, Notre Dame football, they actually did announce their announcing crew for their college football games coming up. If I can get the little computer up here now, of course, Dan Hicks, Jason Garrett, and Zora Stevenson will have Notre Dame football, all their home games and such. You got, of course, Noah Eagle, a friend of the show, Todd Blackish, and Catherine Tappa. They'll be doing various Big Ten Saturday night and select primetime games. Of course, that'll start with Michigan hosting New Mexico coming up next Saturday and such. So, and also too, here's another one. Phil Simms is back at the helm. He actually will be doing Big Ten football games as well as while his son Chris will be doing the studio stuff as well, and what we'll be doing analyst stuff for as well with Paul Burmeister, and of course former standout from Penn State Michael Robinson, and also Yogi Roth, who will serve as game analyst there for their studio stuff as well. And like I said, Phil Simms will return to NBC Sports, serve as game analyst for multiple Big Ten games as well. So yeah, a lot of changes there. NBC also capitalizing a lot of their college football slate for the Big Ten.
Yes, we talked about before with some of the big teams in the NBA and the NFL that bring in big ratings, like the Packers, the Cowboys, and of course LeBron's Lakers and things along that line. College football, we know about with the Notre Dame, especially with them being the college football playoff last year. They'll draw in big ratings because you want to see, you have fans that want to see them lose, like yours truly, and then you have on the other side fans that want them to win, like our girl Christine the Queen Manica. They're like their fans are theirs that want to see them win. So you got to have a polarizing product that people will tune in and watch, and NBC has that right now, especially with the college sports.
Could be just see with all this stuff coming up. NBC's gonna be very busy within the next 9 to 12 months. So they're gonna be very busy. John Wall announced his retirement earlier this week from basketball after 11 seasons, 5-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA third team, All-NBA second team, All-Rookie first team. Of course, former slam dunk champion. Of course, that 1 year he was at Kentucky, he won SEC Player of the Year. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Ooh, that's right, because that does count your college career. Ooh,
and high school too, because he won a couple. Because remember, he won a couple of high school championships when he was in high school as well. Mm-hmm.
If he goes in the Hall of Fame, that's probably why. But just looking at his totality of his career, I think he's borderline at best only because of the injuries really derailed his career. If he would have stayed healthy, I think he would have been a for sure Hall of Fame, but he's on the borderline to me.
Yeah, I think his high school and college careers were going to get him in, not necessarily his NBA. Although he did have a solid NBA career, but that wouldn't be enough. But so thankfully for him, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So his high school and college career will definitely get him in. Now, he's not going to watch on his laurels though. He's going to be on NBA Prime. Going to be doing some studio stuff there with their NBA on Amazon Prime with their coverage. Thoughts?
Yep. Yeah. I never. I've heard him on a couple of podcast, and he's a very intelligent young man. So hopefully he can bring out his personality and bring something different than what analysts are out there right now. So hopefully, I know he's going to go through a growing adjustment period. Hopefully he does well. So I'm interested to see how he does in his new venture. Now, I want to close out the show with some good news, LaKeena, sticking with the NBA. And thank goodness I didn't forget this. Saturday night, January 24th, Bulls versus Celtics. Derrick Rose will have his jersey finally retired.
Yay! I mean, you could have. I mean, our buddy Mac Peck from CHGO said. I mean, they could have done this when they did the whole thing during the season earlier this year. They could have done that, but I guess like he said, it's more of a money grab for Ryan. So because anything D Rose, Bulls fans eat up. So it's actually pretty. There's actually a very nice shifty mood there. We know we're on to you, Mr. Reinsdorf. So we know how he's very sly like that. So yeah, but congrats to him and such. I know it's gonna be a very emotional night during that night. That night. And I'm sure the tickets are gonna be at a premium. So I think most of the tickets are already I think most of them are sold out. Most of the prime seats. So
yeah, via StubHub and all those secondary markets. I just want to bring that up. I know we got to get up out of here, but I think it was Matt Peck, if not him, someone else. I think it was Matt Peck that tweeted it out and said already, and those tickets were in the hundreds of dollars already.
Yeah, they played Boston. Yeah, they played the Celtics that game. So we'll see where both teams are. But then, of course, Jason Tatum's gonna be out for all next season as well. So we'll see where I know the Celtics have made some moves. So again, we will see where the Celtics are. But definitely gonna be a very emotional, happy night in Chicago on January 24th.
Yes, so congratulations to D Rose once again. He'll get his jersey lifted up to the United Center rafters on January 24th.
All right, a couple of quick notes here. A nice win for the Sky. They beat the defending champ Liberty. Angel Reese has been playing the ball playing very well. They're not going to the playoffs, unfortunately. They're near the bottom, I believe the Sky is. So, but it's a nice showing by Reese and the Sky. They actually will play tomorrow against as they host the Connecticut Sun. That's going to be on CBS Sports Network at 3:00. So if you want to check that out, you can. Let's see here. Oh, if you're into the Little League World Series, you got the U.S. and the international championships as well as the World Championship will be this weekend. Connecticut, which they have not lost in this tournament. They face Nevada, Las Vegas. So that'll be the second game. That's the U.S. Championship, and then the international will be Aruba and Chinese Taipei before then. And then, of course, you got the World Championship Sunday. That's why Carl Ravitch won't be there because he'll be calling the game there at Williamsport. So if you're into the World Series, that's your schedule for this weekend for the Little League World Series that they finish up.
All right, LaKeena, take us home.
Also, you got the Tour Championship coming up as well. So, so all you golf fans, they finished up their season as well. So, as you get ready for the Ryder Cup coming up in a couple of weeks, you can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, LaKeena IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast, War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports on Chicago's programming anytime, anywhere. So if you miss a guest or if you miss a segment, don't worry. Just go to the Sports on Chicago's Facebook YouTube channels. It's all right there for you. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch it all right there on his Facebook, the Sports on Chicago's Facebook YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
Enjoy all the football as they're finishing up their preseason college football. If you're to week 0, you got a couple of great games that are coming up this tomorrow. Then, of course, you've got the WNBA. They're finishing up there, getting ready to finish up there. They got a couple more weeks left. And then, of course, you got baseball and the golf. They finished up with the Tour Championship and so much more. So enjoy all that. Be safe out there. Just be good to each other. This is Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. For Sid, I'm LaKeena, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Bears and go Sox. Holla!